The first thing I noticed wasn't the late nights or the sudden business trips. It was the credit card statement. Sitting at our kitchen island on a crisp Sunday morning, sipping my coffee, I stared at the screen of my laptop in disbelief. $3,000 at Tiffany's, $2,000 at Gucci, dinner for two at Le Bernardin, on my birthday. "What are you looking at, Stella?" Michael asked, casually strolling into the kitchen, his voice dripping with that fake sweetness he'd perfected over our 14 years of marriage. I closed my laptop with a snap. "Just some online shopping," I replied, matching his casual tone while my heart pounded against my ribs. Nothing important. Nothing important. That's what our marriage had become. I'm Stella Reynolds, by the way. That's the name I kept professionally even after I married Michael Anderson at 28. I'd met him when I was working my way up at a marketing firm while he was already established in finance. We had the perfect story, the kind people smile at during wedding toasts. I gave up my rising career to support his, to raise our children, to build the home he could return to after conquering Wall Street. Funny how you can share a bed with someone for 14 years and still not know them. The credit card notifications had been pinging my phone for months, but I'd dismissed them. Michael handled our finances. Another thing I'd surrendered control of. "You don't need to worry about that stuff, Stella," he'd say, kissing my forehead like I was a child. "I've got it covered." He certainly had something covered. That night, I waited until his breathing deepened beside me. I slipped out of bed and took his phone from the nightstand. After 14 years, I knew his password was still our anniversary date. Pathetic and predictable, just like what I was about to discover. Her name was Amber, 26 years old, exactly 14 years younger than me. Her Instagram showed a life of luxury, champagne brunches, weekend getaways, designer shopping sprees, all funded by my family's money, all funded by the man sleeping soundly beside me, unaware that his world was about to implode. The messages between them made me physically ill. "Can't wait to see you tomorrow, baby. Missing your touch. I'll bring the black card. Get whatever you want." The black card. Our joint premium credit card that was supposed to be for family emergencies. I remember sitting on our bathroom floor at 3 a.m., hand pressed against my mouth to muffle my sobs. Not just because of the betrayal, but because of the humiliation. Everyone probably knew. His colleagues. Maybe even our friends. Perhaps I was the last one to find out. The stupid, devoted wife who gave up everything for a man who treated her like an afterthought. But something crystallized in me that night, sitting on those cold tiles. It wasn't just sadness flowing through me. It was rage. Pure, clarifying rage. I remembered who I was before Michael. Stella Reynolds. Smart. Strategic. Relentless when I wanted something. I took screenshots of everything. The messages, the transactions, the photos they'd sent each other. I emailed them to myself, then deleted the evidence from his phone's recently deleted folder. I slipped back into bed beside him, my mind racing with what I'd just discovered. "Everything okay?" he mumbled, half asleep. "Everything's perfect," I whispered back, and for the first time in months, I wasn't lying, because I finally understood what was happening. And understanding your enemy is the first step to defeating them. The next morning, I kissed him goodbye like nothing had changed. Watched him drive away in his BMW to his corner office, or more likely, to her downtown apartment. I stood in our doorway, the home I'd built, decorated, and maintained for 14 years, and made myself a promise. He would regret the day he decided I wasn't enough. That's when my plan began to take shape. The art of pretending everything is fine is something they should teach in school. For the next 2 months, I was the perfect wife. I cooked his favorite meals. I didn't question his late nights. I even bought new lingerie that collected dust in my drawer while he claimed to be too tired after work. All while I investigated. Amber worked as a lifestyle consultant, which seemed to be code for professional gold digger. Her Instagram was a catalog of expensive gifts from unnamed admirers. Michael was just her latest sponsor. I hired a private investigator, paid in cash from my secret emergency fund that Michael knew nothing about. Money I'd been saving for years, skimming from household expenses, preparing for a rainy day without realizing it would become a hurricane. The PI confirmed what I already knew. but added crucial details. They met 3 times a week at a luxury apartment downtown, paid for by Michael. He had given her access to our family credit card 6 months ago. The estimated total spent, $137,000. $137,000. Money that could have been our children's college fund, our retirement, our future. The worst part wasn't even the money. It was the realization that while I was scheduling our son's dentist appointments and helping our daughter with her science projects, while I was making sure his shirts were pressed and his favorite cereal was always in the pantry, he was building a separate life. "You seem different lately, Stella," Michael commented one night over dinner. "Is everything okay?" I smiled, taking a sip of wine. "Just feeling more like myself these days." He nodded, barely listening, already checking his phone under the table, probably texting her. I wanted to scream. I wanted to throw his perfectly cooked steak in his face. I wanted to ask him if she was worth destroying 14 years of marriage, if she was worth hurting our children, if expensive lingerie and no responsibilities was his definition of love. Instead, I asked, "How was work today?" The gaslighting was the hardest part. The way he'd look me in the eye and lie. The way he'd make me feel crazy for questioning a weekend business trip to Miami. The way he'd accuse me of being paranoid when I asked who kept calling him at dinner. "You know what your problem is, Stella?" he told me once, after I'd meekly asked why he was home at 2 a.m. "You're just bored. You need to find a hobby or something. All this suspicion isn't healthy." I nodded, apologized, and went to bed alone. Again. When our anniversary came around, he forgot. No card, no flowers, not even a text. But the credit card statement showed a $4,000 purchase at Cartier that same day. That night, I sat across from him at a dinner table he'd reluctantly agreed to after I reminded him of the date. He kept checking his watch, kept glancing at his phone. I gave everything to him, I thought, watching him rush through his meal, and he discarded me like I was nothing. My mother had noticed it too. "Stella," she said during our weekly lunch, her eyes full of concern, "is everything all right with you and Michael?" I nearly broke down then, nearly told her everything. But I just smiled and said, "We're just going through a phase." "Well," she replied, patting my hand, "remember what I always told you. Never let anyone determine your worth." My mother, married for 45 years to my father who adored the ground she walked on, couldn't imagine the hell I was living in. Couldn't imagine that her son-in-law was spending our family's money on a woman half my age. The final straw came when my daughter, Emma, only 12 years old, asked me one night, "Mom, are you and Dad getting divorced?" My heart stopped. "Why would you ask that, sweetie?" She shrugged, eyes downcast. "My friend Lily's parents got divorced, and before they told her they were acting just like you and Dad, out of the mouths of babes." That night, I lay awake beside Michael's sleeping form, tears silently streaming down my face. Not just for me anymore, but for my children, for the family we had built, for the future that was crumbling. I gave him everything. My youth, my career, my unwavering support, and he gave her a credit card. That night, something inside me hardened. No more tears, no more heartbreak, only calculation. People underestimate quiet women. We're the ones watching, listening, absorbing. We're the ones who know where all the bodies are buried. Sometimes literally. I'd been married to Michael for 14 years, but I'd been Stella Reynolds my entire life. And Stella Reynolds was nobody's fool. First, I needed to understand exactly what I was dealing with. I made an appointment with our family attorney, citing estate planning concerns. Richard had been our lawyer for a decade, helping with house purchases and wills. "Just curious," I asked casually after discussing trusts. "Hypothetically speaking, how are assets divided in divorces involving infidelity in our state?" Richard's eyebrows shot up. "Hypothetically," he repeated, not believing me for a second. "Well, New York is an equitable distribution state. Infidelity doesn't technically impact asset division unless marital assets were used to fund the affair." I nodded, filing that information away. "And if someone, say, gave their mistress access to family credit cards?" Richard removed his glasses. "That would be considered dissipation of marital assets. Definitely something a judge would find interesting. Perfect. Next, I needed evidence that would be irrefutable. The PI had given me dates, times, and locations, but I needed more. I needed the kind of proof that would make even Michael's high-priced divorce attorney sweat. I called our credit card company, explained that I believed there was fraud on our account, and requested all statements for the past year. When they arrived, I spent a weekend highlighting every suspicious charge, creating a color-coded spreadsheet that tracked spending patterns: red for jewelry, blue for hotels, green for restaurants. It was a rainbow of betrayal. Then I did something that surprised even me. I called Amber. "Who is this?" she answered, her voice exactly as young and confident as I'd imagined. "This is Stella Anderson, Michael Anderson's wife," I said calmly. "I think we should meet." The silence on the other end was deafening. "I'm not interested in drama," she finally said. "Whatever issues you have with your husband—" "I have the screenshots, Amber," I interrupted. "All of them, including the ones where you discuss the credit card he gave you, the one linked to our family account." Another silence. Then, "What do you want?" "A conversation. Tomorrow, the St. Regis lobby at noon." I hung up before she could respond. That night, I couldn't sleep. Not from anxiety, but from anticipation. For the first time in months, I felt powerful. In control. Michael noticed. "You seem different," he commented over breakfast. I smiled. "Just been doing some financial planning." His fork paused midway to his mouth. "What kind of financial planning?" "Oh, you know," I said lightly. "Just getting organized, making sure I understand all our accounts." The flash of panic in his eyes was delicious. At noon the next day, I sat in the St. Regis lobby wearing my Chanel suit, the one I'd purchased years ago when I still had my own career. I'd had it tailored recently. Amazing what dropping 10 pounds of stress weight can do for your wardrobe. Amber was 20 minutes late, a power move I recognized and respected. She was beautiful, of course. Long blonde hair, tiny waist, designer everything. She looked like an Instagram filter come to life. "Mrs. Anderson," she said, sliding into the seat across from me. No handshake offered. "It's Ms. Reynolds," I corrected her. "I never changed my name legally." This clearly surprised her. Good. I wanted her off balance. "I'll get right to the point," I continued. "I know about the credit card. I know about the apartment. I know about everything." She shrugged, examining her manicure. "So? People have affairs. Marriages end. It's hardly breaking news." "True," I agreed. "But there's something you should know about Michael." I slid a folder across the table. Inside was information the PI had uncovered that even I hadn't suspected. Michael hadn't just been cheating with Amber. There had been others, many others. And Amber wasn't the first to receive a credit card. She was, however, the first to have evidence of his promises. Screenshots of texts where he promised to leave me, to marry her, to give her the life she deserved. I watched her face as she flipped through the pages, watched the confidence drain away as she realized she wasn't special. She was just the current model in a long line of replaceable women. "He's done this before," I said softly. "And when he's done with you, he'll do it again." "Why are you showing me this?" she whispered. "Because I'm giving you a choice. Return every penny you spent using that card, including the jewelry, and I'll leave you out of what happens next. Or don't, and I'll make sure you're named in the divorce proceedings, which will become very public, very quickly." Her eyes widened. "You can't—" "I've already spoken to 3 of his former mistresses," I interrupted. "They're all willing to testify. Imagine what that will do to your lifestyle consultant brand." The best part of my plan wasn't just the confrontation with Amber. It was what I'd been doing silently for months beforehand. I'd been transferring small amounts from our joint accounts to my private account. I'd been documenting every conversation, every lie. I'd been consulting with not just one lawyer, but 3. And I'd been making friends with the one person who knew all of Michael's financial secrets, his executive assistant, Janet. Janet, who had been quietly enduring Michael's disrespect for years. Janet, who he referred to as the old battle axe when she wasn't around. Janet, who had witnessed his patterns with multiple women and who harbored years of resentment for being treated like furniture. Janet, who had access to everything. "If you're planning what I think you're planning," she told me over coffee one afternoon, "you should know about the offshore account." And just like that, the final piece fell into place. 1 week after my meeting with Amber, a package arrived at our front door. No return address, just Stella Reynolds elegantly written on top. Inside was everything. The credit card cut in half, along with every piece of jewelry Michael had purchased for her. At the bottom was a handwritten note. "He's all yours. God help you." I smiled, placing the items carefully in my safe. Then I called Michael's parents and his sister. "I'm planning a surprise anniversary dinner," I explained. "Michael's been working so hard lately. I thought it would be nice to have family around." His mother was thrilled. "How thoughtful. You've always been such a wonderful wife to him." If she only knew. I spent the next 3 days preparing. I booked a private room at Le Cirque, Michael's favorite restaurant, where he'd taken Amber numerous times according to the credit card statements. I had my hair done, my nails perfected. I bought a new dress, red, form-fitting, nothing like the practical clothes I'd worn during my years of playing the supportive wife. The night of the dinner, I laid out Michael's favorite suit. "What's this for?" he asked, coming out of the shower. "I thought we could have a nice dinner tonight," I said. "Just the two of us." He hesitated. "Actually, I have plans with the guys from work. Didn't I mention it?" "Cancel them," I said, my voice leaving no room for argument. "This is important." Something in my tone must have alarmed him because he nodded slowly. "Everything okay, Stella?" "It will be," I promised. "After tonight." When we arrived at Le Cirque, Michael was surprised to see his family already seated in the private room. "What's all this?" he asked, his smile strained. "A celebration," I answered, guiding him to his seat at the head of the table. His father raised a glass. "To Michael and his beautiful wife. 14 years and still going strong." Everyone drank except me. I was waiting for the right moment. After appetizers were served, I excused myself to freshen up. In the restroom, I changed into my secret weapon, a stunning diamond necklace and matching earrings that Michael had purchased for Amber 3 months ago. I'd found the receipt in his email, $42,000. When I returned to the table, his face went pale. "Darling," his mother exclaimed. "Those are gorgeous. I've never seen those before. Are they new?" "Brand new," I confirmed, touching the diamonds at my throat. "Michael has quite the eye for jewelry, doesn't he?" Michael's glass froze halfway to his lips. His eyes locked with mine, silently pleading. "In fact," I continued, my voice steady, "Michael has been very generous lately. With his time, his affection, and our money." I opened my purse and removed the cut credit card, placing it on the table beside his plate. "Would you like to explain this to your family, or should I?" The silence that fell over the table was absolute. "What is this?" his sister finally asked. "This," I said, still looking directly at Michael, "is the credit card my husband gave to his 26-year-old mistress, the one he's been keeping in a downtown apartment for the past year, the one he spent over $100,000 on." His father's face darkened. "Michael, is this true?" Michael tried to recover, reaching for my hand across the table. "Stella, honey, you're obviously confused. I can explain." "Please do," I interrupted, removing my hand from his reach. "Explain the Tiffany purchases on my birthday. Explain the hotel rooms in Miami when you were supposedly at a conference in Chicago. Explain the texts promising to leave your boring wife as soon as the time was right." I reached back into my purse and withdrew copies of the credit card statements, the hotel receipts, the screenshots of conversations. I'd made individual packets for each person at the table. "I took the liberty of preparing some reading material," I said, passing them around. "I thought it might make for interesting dinner conversation." Michael stood up so quickly his chair toppled backward. "This is insane. I'm not going to sit here and—" "Sit down." His father's voice cracked like a whip. "You're going to face this like a man." For the next 20 minutes, no one ate. They just read in horrified silence, occasionally looking up at Michael with expressions ranging from disappointment to disgust. "There's more," I said when they'd had time to absorb the initial shock. "Janet has been very helpful in providing documentation of the offshore account you've been hiding assets in. Your lawyer will be receiving those details tomorrow. Michael's face went from pale to ashen. You talked to Janet? She wouldn't. She did, I confirmed. Turns out referring to your loyal executive assistant as the old battle axe for 14 years doesn't inspire much loyalty. His mother was openly crying now. His father looked like he might have a heart attack. His sister couldn't even look at him. I've also been in contact with Amber, I continued calmly. She returned everything once she realized she wasn't the first, or even the fifth woman you've done this with. She was surprisingly reasonable once she understood she was just following a script you've been using for years. I stood up, smoothing my red dress. I've already moved half of the money from our joint accounts, which is actually less than I'm entitled to. The divorce papers are being delivered to your office tomorrow. I've taken the liberty of packing your essential items. They're in your car. The locks to our house have been changed. Michael finally found his voice. You can't do this. You can't just ambush me and… Actually, I can. I cut him off. And I have. You see, while you were busy building your little fantasy life, you forgot something important. I was Stella Reynolds before I met you. I was a partner at a marketing firm. I specialized in crisis management and strategic communication. Did you really think I'd just cry and beg you to stay? I turned to his family. I'm sorry to have involved you all in this unpleasantness. I truly am. But I thought you should know who your son really is before I remove myself from this family. His father stood up, but instead of defending his son, he moved to stand beside me. You have nothing to apologize for, he said gruffly. Nothing at all. The final blow came when I placed my wedding ring on the table. Consider this the first installment of what you owe me, I said to Michael. You can sell it to help pay for your new bachelor apartment. As I walked out of the restaurant, I heard his mother's devastated sobs, his father's angry voice, his sister's disgusted comments. I didn't look back. Outside, my Uber was waiting. As I slid into the back seat, my phone buzzed with a text from Janet. It's done. All the documentation has been sent to all 3 attorneys. Are you okay? I texted back, never better. And for the first time in years, it wasn't a lie. That was 6 months ago. The divorce was finalized faster than anyone expected. Michael didn't fight it, not after his family witnessed everything, not after Janet provided evidence of his financial deceptions, not after 3 former mistresses came forward with similar stories. He lost more than just me. His father, disgusted by his actions, accelerated his retirement plans and handed control of the family business to Michael's cousin instead of him. His mother still calls me once a week, apologizing for raising such a disappointment. His sister refused to let him meet her newborn daughter. As for me, the first month was harder than I expected. Not because I missed him, that part was surprisingly easy, but because I had to rediscover who I was without him. I found the answer in an unexpected place. My old career. A former colleague had started her own agency and needed a partner with experience. Someone who knows how to handle a crisis, as she put it. I used part of my settlement to buy in. The other part went into trust funds for my children. Money Michael can never touch. The children were the most difficult aspect of all this. Emma, at 12, understood more than I wished she did. Did Daddy have a girlfriend? She asked one night as I tucked her in. Your father made some bad choices, I answered carefully. But those choices were about him, not about you or your brother. He still loves you very much. But he hurt you, she said, her eyes wise beyond her years. I brushed her hair back from her forehead. Yes, he did. And it's okay for you to be angry about that. It's also okay to still love him. She thought about this for a moment. I'm proud of you, Mom, for not letting him get away with it. From the mouths of babes, indeed. Michael lives in a downtown apartment now, not the one he kept for Amber, a different one, smaller, less impressive. He sees the children every other weekend, shows up with expensive gifts and guilty smiles. They're polite but distant with him. Children always know more than we think they do. I sold our house, too many memories, and bought a modern townhouse closer to my new office. I date occasionally, but I'm in no rush. For the first time in 14 years, my time is truly my own. Amber reached out once, about 3 months after everything happened. I'm sorry, her text read. I didn't know about the wife and kids. Not at first. And then I told myself it wasn't my problem. I didn't respond. Her apology wasn't for me. It was for herself. Sometimes I wear those diamond earrings to important meetings, not because they're beautiful, though they are, but because they remind me of an important lesson. Appearances can be deceiving, and strength often comes after your greatest humiliation. Last week, I ran into Michael at a restaurant. He was alone, looking older somehow, diminished. He stood when he saw me, uncertain. "You look good, Stella," he said finally. "I am good," I replied. He hesitated. "I've been seeing someone, a therapist, I mean, trying to understand why I did what I did." I nodded, not particularly interested in his journey of self-discovery. "I never thought you'd," he started. "That was always your problem," I interrupted gently. "You never really saw me at all." As I walked away, I realized something important. I no longer hated him. I no longer loved him either. He had become what he always feared most: irrelevant. The other day, my mother asked if I regretted confronting him so publicly, involving his family, causing such a scene. "Not for a second," I told her truthfully. "Some betrayals deserve an audience." I think about that night often, not with regret, but with a sense of pride. Not because I hurt him or humiliated him, but because when faced with the greatest betrayal of my life, I chose myself. I chose truth. I chose strength. That's the story I want my daughter to remember. Not that her father cheated, or that her mother cried, but that when life shattered around me, I gathered the pieces and built something new, something stronger, something that was entirely mine. And in the end, that was worth more than all the diamonds he ever bought. For her,